well,
Absolutely.
or as you might say, Mr. Vinny. And Mr. Vinny here, we're going to start today with the same way we started last week. Your Pittsburgh Steelers.
Pittsburgh Steelers. What do we start with? I think, number one, defense. I mean, what can I say about the defense? First off, Deshaun Watson, thank you so much for throwing that interception the first play of the game. It wasn't really your fault. We all know it, but thank you nonetheless. And then also, thank you for getting strip sacked and T.J. Watt scoring that touchdown. Very good by T.J. Watt, but I think defense was the biggest key for the Steelers this last week. Well, actually yesterday for us, playing against the Browns. But as I kind of pointed out, week one, offense is lacking, and oh boy, that was atrocious to watch. I did not like watching our Steelers play offense, but it was a lot better than the Panthers Monday night, I will say, because that was bad.
Yeah, well, Monday, I mean, it was 4 teams with really good defenses, and that's the kind of football that I really like to watch.
I do too.
Most people, unfortunately, don't really like to watch that, but I was very impressed. I watched that game between the Steelers and the Browns, and I honestly watched that game, and I saw 2 teams that I think can make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And people will say, "Wow, well, you're crazy. Those teams both stink." I don't think they stink. I think those are 2 of the best defenses in the league, flexing their muscles against each other and showing just exactly what they can do. I think the Browns and the Steelers are both very good football teams.
I absolutely agree. I think the Browns, although they had some offensive struggles with Nick Chubb going out early in the game, I think it was the first quarter. I didn't realize
second quarter,
it was the second quarter. Okay, that made more sense because somebody told me it was the first quarter.
Maybe it was the first quarter.
I don't know. Well, anyways, I was really surprised by the Browns, or maybe I was very disappointed in my Steelers defense and how they allowed Jerome Ford. Congratulations to Jerome Ford for 16 carries, 103 yards. That was impressive.
Yeah.
I will say that. He had a great week this week as the backup and becoming the de facto starter. And I will say, man, the Browns, they have a great run game. And I think it's mostly because of that offensive line. And Nick Chubb is a superb athlete, and I hope he comes back. And I hope that this injury doesn't really kill his career.
I'm gonna obviously I hope that as well, but just we've seen so many running backs go down for a season and never be the same. But hopefully Nick Chubb, obviously he's a hell of a player and a really good running back. Also, speaking of this, so now we have 3 of the top 5 running backs, and 4 are all injured because you've got Aaron Jones injured, Austin Eckler injured, Saquon went down, as well as Nick Chubb. Chubb's the only one who's out for the season. The other 3 will be back, but it's crazy. Yeah, Chubb's out. He's done for the year. But it is crazy how many of these top running backs are going down. Look at it right now. I mean, McCaffrey's still alive. Derrick Henry, and then obviously the Falcons have 2 in Bijan and Tyler Algier, who both look incredible. And then the Rams with Kyron Williams. Is he going to be the next big thing? And as well, David Montgomery also down, but Jahmyr Gibbs with the line. So there are still some good running backs, but a lot of the best are. And J.K. Dobbins out for the season. I don't consider him to be in that top tier.
Just another running back that's down.
Just another running back that goes down. So the running backs, I know they want to be paid more. They're kind of justifying right now the not paying the running backs thing.
I think, in my opinion, is that offensive coordinators and teams have to find different ways to utilize running backs. I don't think the up the gut the middle type style of running backs is good for running backs right now, especially of how injured they're getting. I think more of the shotgun backs, more of the receiving backs. I don't think power backs are the thing anymore, and I think a lot of these running backs are getting injured on those power running back plays.
Yeah, well, they're not built like the power running backs.
They're not. That's true. But I also believe that you see Nick Chubb. He's a power back. He gets injured, and then the next question is, when will Derrick Henry get injured? I mean, he's a power back, and you're just thinking it's always on your mind, or maybe it's not. When is he going to get injured? Because those power backs, they're not built like they used to, and definitely with all the new technology, you would assume that the injuries would lessen up, but it's actually, I would say, it's increased over time, especially for the running backs.
Yeah, it's a real shame. But back to the Steelers, man. I think what the Steelers are, I think and I'll let you tell me because you're an actual Steelers fan, but from my perspective, the Steelers are an elite NFL team minus 2 of the most important position groups, which is the quarterback room and the offensive line. Because when I look at the Steelers, I see a defensive line that might be the best in the league. I see a secondary that might be one of the best in the league. Great linebackers. They have great receivers. Every year they have great receivers. Good running backs. Good tight end production. They have elite special teams. They have what I believe is an elite coaching staff. Some people might disagree, but it's pretty hard to never have a losing record. Elite coaching staff, and they have all the intangibles, right? Play better after a loss. They play better at home. They play better when the weather's worse. They take advantage of things that to some teams might be a trap. For the Steelers, they embrace it. They embrace the hardships. So I think they have the intangibles, they have the coaching, and they have 80% of their roster stacks up with any other team in the NFL. Right there with the Cowboys, right there with the Chiefs. Probably I would still say the 49ers are the best overall team, but the problem for the Steelers is that last 20%, offensive line and quarterback, they just don't have it. And the problem is that's what they've been for about 5 years, and they still haven't fixed it.
I would even argue 10 years as a Steelers fan. We've maybe not the elite defense for 10 years, but definitely had the quarterback and the offensive line, and now we're trying to transition to a new quarterback and trying to get those offensive line pieces in the draft. I don't know how I feel about this offense. I really do love the wide receiver core.
Deontay Johnson's good.
He's good, but Deontay Johnson's down. He got injured, but George Pickens is going to be our number one this coming week. Maybe Deontay Johnson will come back, but for me, I'm not worried about the receivers. I'm more worried about the backs and the linemen and the quarterback. Pickett, I want to still give him time. I still want to give him hope that he's going to do good. But from what I've seen, man, an elite quarterback doesn't need to make the excuse of a bad offensive line. And I'm not saying Kenny Pickett is making an excuse, and nor will I ever argue that Kenny Pickett is making an excuse.
Well, he's not elite, so
but he's not elite. That's the thing.
He should get that excuse.
I don't know. I don't think he should get that excuse. I just think that what needs to happen is that we need to go back into the training. We need to get those offensive linemen to grinding a little bit more. Just try to build up the run defense, the run offense, and the passing game, because right now the pockets are collapsing really quickly, and we are not getting as enough offensive firepower through our rushing game, because Najee Harris, I think he went 16 carries, 43 yards. That's just not good, and most of them weren't up the gut. They were just around the end, off the tackle, off the guard. They're not up straight in the middle, and I wish the Steelers would do that more. But the Browns' defensive line is one of the best defensive lines in the league.
Honestly, I would chalk Najee struggling. I would chalk that up to the fact that he just played the 49ers and the Browns, who both have really good run-stopping defenses. I think Najee will be okay, but the offensive line, going all the way back to 2019, the year Big Ben went down in the second game of the season, you would think, and ever since then, after that, Big Ben played 2 more years, but he was never the same quarterback. So if they went Rudolph, 2 years of old Big Ben, and now 2 years of Pickett, who looks like he's not any good, you would think that in that time span, they would have thought to themselves, maybe we should try to fix the O-line, which just got our star quarterback injured and now needs to protect a rookie quarterback. But it feels like it's the same story every year. It's the weapons are good, the defense is good. What happened to the O-line?
The O-line retired actually 4 years ago, 4 years ago, and we're still in the rebuilding process of that O-line, and we're getting those draft picks, but I think we need to prioritize that more, because the last 5 drafts that I remember, we prioritized defense because our defense was lacking 10 years ago. And now that we got the defense in set, we now need the O-line. So I hope this coming draft, for the first round, second round pick as well, Steelers get an offensive lineman, someone who's that's touted throughout college, and hopefully we can build them into the next great Steelers offensive line.
So who gets the blame then? Or is there just no blame?
I think the blame is just shared amongst the offense. I would argue the receivers, and I'm not saying because the receivers are at fault here.
I don't know if I'd argue that.
Because I just think it's just a team mentality. It's a unit mentality. You can't just single out one group right now, because right now everything's in shambles. George Pickens was great this week, but I think he only had 3-4 receptions for 104 yards, which is great. But one of those receptions was a 60-yard touchdown or a 70, 80-yard touchdown. And that's great and all, but we need more of those plays. We need more 10-plus yard plays from our receivers as well. And that also starts with Pickett and trying to be more more protected in the pocket. So I think as a whole, we just need to start moving more as a unit. And I think this year, by the midway point, if we're not seeing that connection, the improvement, then I would be a little worried going forward into next year if we don't get those pieces in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it and say part of it has to be on the front office, but they did try to draft Pickett. To give them credit, that he was the highest quarterback drafted. Just hasn't panned out yet. I think he could, but we'll see. Like I said, I watched that team and I think to myself, if the Steelers make the playoffs, I would not be surprised at all. And in fact, I think I'm going to have to move them up in my power rankings this week. I had them at 17 last week. I think they're probably a top 15 team in my eyes right now. And that's crazy to see, but, last year they won, I think, 6 or 7 games with Kenny Pickett, and they won, 3 with Mitch Trubisky. So they can clearly win despite the quarterback. The question is just, can they win enough? I think they can. But let's move on.